Welcome back to Theater Talk on WTBU Radio. Before the break, we heard a little Newsies, and we heard some, what was that? On the Town. Alicia Umfris.
Yes.
She's great. She's great.
She is.
Right now, we're so pleased to be joined by two actors of the fantastic production of The Little Foxes, currently playing at the Lyric Stage Company here in Boston. Welcome, Michael and Rosa. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
So first, if for those who aren't familiar with the play, could you give us a brief synopsis of what the show's about?
Sure.
Okay, absolutely. Brief. So, The Little Foxes is a play about a Southern family in the antebellum South, Alabama, that is endeavoring to expand their family wealth by partnering with a Northern businessman on bringing a cotton mill to their land in the South. In order to do so, they need to invest 3 shares of money in the business, and the play is effectively about the games that this family plays to get that money guaranteed, and how their greed for the money to invest in the business and the greed for the money that will come from the business, which will also ultimately exploit the land on which they live,
And the people that live on that land.
corrupts their family, corrupts their relationships, and corrupts themselves.
Right. Yeah. That was a good synopsis.
Yeah, that was
Fabulous.
Well
Thank
done,
you.
well done.
Yes, very good. Were you familiar with the show before you started working on this production, or was it a brand new experience?
I had read the play before, actually, in Scott's. I took a class with Scott when I was in college.
Cool. The director.
And yes, the director.
Yes.
And so I had read it in his class, but I had never seen a production of it.
I was familiar with it. I read it in high school in my drama history class. I also read Lillian Hellman's The Children's Hour, and I was familiar with that. I read that here at BU because I'm an alum.
Yes, we'll get to that.
And I was familiar. I had the great pleasure of seeing the recent Broadway revival in which Laura Linney and
Cynthia Nixon
did Birdie and Regina in Rep, which was very cool.
Who did you see them play?
I saw Linney do Birdie and Cynthia Nixon do Regina, and I was kind of glad for that. It felt like the stranger.
Right. I watched an interview,
Right.
and Linney said she wanted to do Birdie. That's the one she wanted to do.
Yeah.
But interesting. It was really interesting what they did with that. So as you just mentioned, Michael, you are a School of Theater here at CFA alum. And Rosa, I know you graduated from Northeastern.
Yes.
So what has it been like? Rosa, did you go to school for acting at Northeastern?
Yes, for theater.
Did you guys know you always wanted to be an actor growing up, and what has it been like post-grad?
I did not know I wanted to act or do anything in the theater. I came to Northeastern thinking I wanted to go to law school and spent about 2 years in college taking classes in political science and law and public policy classes, and then took an acting class just as my elective arts for my major, and really fell in love with it and started auditioning for the department shows and started just really loving everything about theater and getting really into reading plays and exploring the history of theater. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do. And I graduated in May, moved to New York.
Awesome.
Have been acting a little in New York, and then am back up here for this show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
I grew up in North Jersey, right across the river from New York City. And so when I was a kid, my mom took me to a lot of shows on Broadway. My first show was Beauty and the Beast. And I don't think that I knew until high school that I wanted to be an actor. For a while, I thought I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a filmmaker. And then I was involved off stage in my first production at high school, and something about all of those people in a room being together creating something that moved so many people in a room together felt so unbelievably communal and special to me that I think that was the moment that I was officially bitten by the bug, and I wanted to make theater for the rest of my life. And so when it came time to continue my education, I did want to get away from the New York area, but I wanted to remain close to the city, close to New York City, and close to my family. So Boston seemed wisest. And BU just stood out far and away. The School of Theater stood out far and away as a place where I could not only train very specifically as an actor and get a rigor of training that was exceptional, but also really cultivate my singular artistic identity and cultivate what was unique about me. And I graduated in May of 2015, and I fully attempted to do the 9 to 5 sell my soul hustle and work in finance, and it didn't work out for me. And I've been back auditioning in Boston in earnest for the last year, and it's in a sort of way culminated with this project, which has been really, really gratifying.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We love to talk about college programs here on Theater Talk since we're a college radio station. Could you just talk a little bit about how each of your programs prepared you to become an actor in the real professional acting world? We love CFA.
Big supporters.
Thank you. Retroactively, I guess. I'll hop in first.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. The School of Theater at BU, what I think is most exceptional about it is when I was there, at least, we talked a lot about the notion of the citizen artist, and I think that that actually intersects really beautifully with the world today, and what the world today can ask of art, and what the world today could use from art, and what that notion means to me is how can my art engage? How could I engage as an artist with what the world needs? And right now it seems to me, oh my gosh, I'm going to quote that song, but what the world needs is love. And I, through an intense rigor of training in an assortment, I mean, the School of Theater pitches it as the toolbox approach, which is getting training in an assortment of different acting styles, methodologies, so on and so forth. But through, trying on very many different lenses of approaches to acting, I have pieced together what ignites me and what makes what I can bring to the table come out as fully as possible. And it's allowed me a capacity with which I can access that at the ready. And that, to me, I think, is what makes a professional. And that is something that, especially working at a company like The Lyric, I'm profoundly grateful for that preparation from the School of Theater.
Yeah, I went to Northeastern, and their program, I think, is a lot smaller than your program. But I actually really loved it, and I felt like because I was a little bit of a late bloomer, I was coming into a program with students who had been doing theater all their life or had been, really intense in high school. And so I felt really out of my depth. But all the professors and all the students were really wonderful. And though there wasn't a huge range of classes offered, I felt like the department tried to make room for each student, for them to form their own path and the ways they wanted to go about learning about theater and what they wanted to do.
Sure.
So there was a lot of outside study, and I think that also the co-op program was also really big in that. And a lot of my friends who wanted to work in design, you could work wherever you wanted, and you could reach out to any theater and see if you could find an internship. And I think that was really great. And for me, I learned so much by just being in productions at school. That was the most valuable experience, and I hold them really close to my heart. And Northeastern brought in a lot of outside directors. I got to work with Nora Long twice, which was a wonderful experience, and she has taught me so much. And yes, I feel like I took a couple voice classes that were really, really wonderful, and a lot of teachers in Boston, a lot of teachers at Northeastern are actors in Boston, so I took a movement class with Jesse Hinson that was really wonderful, and I've had, he's our fight choreographer for this show, and it's really fun to see him do his work in the classroom and then transfer it
Right.
to a professional production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think that actually speaks to the model in Boston. You've got a lot of theater professionals who are working in so many disciplines,
Right.
and to have exposure to that and to build relationships at that kind of level,
Yeah.
I think prepares one really excellently
Yeah.
for working in this city, in this market.
Right.
Yeah, and I actually did a production in school with Scott as my director.
Oh.
And it's really interesting to compare the differences between him as a director in that production and in a school environment versus here
Sure.
in a more professional environment. And it's really not that different. I think he treated us students with a lot of integrity and treated us like professionals. And I feel like because of that, it wasn't this huge adjustment to go into the professional world.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it was a really wonderful experience, and I think all the professors at Northeastern really treated us like we were professionals in the community.
Do you both have a favorite production you were in college?
Oh, so hard.
I have two that come to mind. At the School of Theater, I was a BFA Theater Arts major, and that culminates in a thesis project, which is something that we self-select and self-produce with the advising of a professor on faculty. And me and two of my dearest friends did a production of Richard Greenberg's 3 Days of Rain, which across 2 acts tells the story of a family and asks of its actors to play both the parents in that family and the children in that family. So it's a really versatile ask of an actor.
Right.
And that was just because it asked of me so much of my theater making capacity, both as an actor and as a producer. I had such an invigorated time on that. And then the other production that I did at BU that was incredibly important to me personally was a production of Larry Kramer's The Normal Heart, in which I played Bruce Niles. And I did that at the age of 20 and learned so very much about myself as an actor because of the emotional demands of that text, but also about myself as a person because it was an opportunity for me to engage with my queer history and the history of my community, which is something that I think young queer people can really relish the opportunity to learn and to visit with, and to do so in an imaginative and creative capacity was a profound gift to me, especially in my coming of age at that point in my education.
Right.
This is hard. I'm going to go with 2 also.
Cool.
My first production that I ever did at Northeastern was with the Northeastern Shakespeare Society. Shout out. And we did a production of Romeo and Juliet, and it was the first production I ever did. And both Romeo and Juliet were both played by female actors. And
That's interesting.
I played Juliet, and I loved the woman who played Romeo. She's just a wonderful person. And it was before I had taken any theater classes or any acting classes, so there was this like exhilaration and just like the freedom of not having, like, I feel now when I approach something, I have techniques and I think a lot about like books I've read or things teachers have told me, which is very helpful, and I'm so grateful for
Of course,
it.
yeah.
But there was something very special and innocent about approaching that text, and especially Shakespeare.
Yes.
And a freedom that came with that. And then I would say my other favorite role was I was in the Glass Menagerie, and I got to play Amanda.
Yeah.
And
It's great.
I love her so much. She taught me so much, and I think I had heard a lot about her character, and what people say about her and how she's this evil mom and how she's often portrayed that way. And from the first time reading the play, I never got that sense from her. I always felt like she had just had such a hard life, and she just didn't know how to quite be the right parent for what her kids needed. And so playing that, and also it was one of the first times I played a character that wasn't the romantic or the love interest of the play. I didn't have to kiss anyone on stage. It was kind of nice. Like, I am playing the old woman. I'm very excited about this. So yeah, I would say that was one of my favorite roles. Yeah.
Circling back to the Little Foxes, you guys have been open now for a little bit. I was able to go to the opening night, and it was like filled with Boston actors, and I felt like the energy in that room was just very exciting. Yeah. But how have audiences been responding to this show?
So differently.
It's been a fascinating,
but always really engaged. Like, I would say the first time we had a really quiet audience, we were really worried. Or I don't want to speak for everyone. Michael and I would go backstage and be like, they're really quiet. What's wrong? Oh God, is it bad? Is it bad? And then as the play went on, and you could tell that they were just actually really focused.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
And they were following the story itself really closely, and it was more internal for them. And I would say, I can also say that based on the reaction at the very end when we come out for our vows, they are always so engaged and so generous and thankful. So I haven't felt that we've had an audience that hasn't been
utterly receptive to what we're bringing to the table.
At all, yeah.
Audiences have been really willing to engage with this material, which has been a really great compliment to us. And though each performance of the show does come through the prism of performance and then shed light on a different aspect of the piece, I think that as a company, we've settled on that particular thing as a consistent through line night after night after night, is that we have been very lucky to have people listening to this 80-year-old play that we are sharing with audiences. And that's such a gift. That's an extraordinary thing.
I mean, and it's 2.5 hours long. I mean, it's not,
And, you know, a lot of these shows, our performances are at 7:30 and 8 o'clock. 7:30 Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 8, Saturdays at 8 and 3, Sundays at 3 p.m. Good
plug.
Always plug.
Yeah, always plug. It's what's been heartening about that is, you know, attempting to unearth what makes this play relevant and asking of audiences in Boston who can, through whatever means, whether it be discounted tickets or full price tickets or, you know, connections and comps, who can afford to come to the theater and engage with this play, ask of them the questions that Lillian Hellman asked 80 years ago, and to do that with Boston audiences, to get a little bit in the thick of things with Boston audiences about, you know, American touchstones such as greed and corruption, has been both challenge. It's been a challenge that audiences have been really rewardingly there to step up to.
Definitely, yeah.
Awesome. This production, like I said, your cast is stacked. Like, it's crazy. What is it like working with some of these Boston greats, such as Anne Gottlieb, who plays Regina amazingly? What is that like?
We both want to say so much.
Glowing or beaming.
I will speak as just like especially being in the dressing room with all the women.
Sure.
These women on and off stage are so giving, have been very motherly to me. I'm endlessly thankful for them, yes. And watching them find their characters and watching them play in rehearsals, I think might be what is like the most that they taught me. It's just like how to play, like watching Anne find Regina and watching the ways every night and every day during rehearsals, every line she's ever said, it's always different, always a little bit. And it's incredible in how present she is. Yeah. And watching Cheryl, who plays Addie, find the depth of her moments has been so eye-opening. She doesn't have very many interactions with Regina, Addie doesn't, but the moments that she does, they're like charged, they're like 200% charged. You know, she gets everything out of it. Yeah. And then with Amelia, She's taught me so much, but acting with her, and we have a lot of scenes together.
Yes.
I don't, I know this is a weird thing to say, but I don't ever feel like she's acting. She has an ease about her. And when I ask her a question on stage, I see her, hear the question, think about it, formulate an answer, say it, hear herself say it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just so much just like in her. And yeah, there is a ease about her that is just such a gift to watch every night and be part of, that I am eternally grateful for. Yeah.
I think to that effect, it's a masterclass.
Yeah.
And it's been a masterclass that we've had the great pleasure of being in now for what, 6 weeks?
Cheers. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I've been in the city now for 8 years, and I think very much like you guys, when I was in college, I was plugged into the theater scene here in Boston. And there are some of these actors, particularly Will McGarrahan, who plays my dad Oscar, that I've been watching for very many of those years, and that I've admired for very many of those years. And I long for experiences of mentorship. I think that in many ways the theater is a sort of undersung apprenticeship trade. And we learn our craft from those that we work with and those who have come before us. And God, what an incredible amount we are able to learn from these people who have not only navigated professional careers, working as actors and sustaining their lives as actors, but who also continue to bring so much of themselves to roles that really demand very much conscience and honesty. Some of the most fun that I've ever had on stage is when I get batted around as a character by my dad, Oscar, and my uncle, Ben. And to watch these men simultaneously navigate, ruthlessly pursuing the money that they want and the success that they want, while also enjoying a sense of clownery and play. Has been so inspiring as a young actor who, wants to pursue my objective and play my actions, but who also wants to make a fool of myself on stage at every opportunity, because that's the fun of it. We are very, very lucky.
Yeah, and there is something that has been there from the very first rehearsal that flows through not just all the actors, but all the designers, the stage managers, Naris, Gina, our assistant stage manager, and all the people at the Lyric. There is a dedication and
a pride
about wanting to do this play justice, do Lillian Hellman justice as much as we can. And I think that speaks to her maybe not getting the credit where credit is due sometimes. And that, I think, is what has contributed to this, like, ensemble of people that are everyone. Like, there is not an outlier in this production. It's really, there's not.
It's breathtaking.
In terms of, like, people pouring their heart and soul into this.
Yeah.
Do you guys prefer, as actors, to do more of these great classics, such as this one, or do you prefer, like, contemporary works?
I feel like these, both. I go back and forth. I think the classics, right, exactly. I feel like the classics have taught me a lot. And I think doing them at a young age is really lucky. Because I think they give me a foundation that I can take with me and carry on.
I think, an actor's dream is to get to have the privilege to do all of the things, humorously, right before this, I just came off of a production of Peter and the Starcatcher, in which I played Smee. Which is, I mean, it has similarities to the character that I play in Little Foxes. They're not apparent, but the clownery of it is similar.
Right.
But to go from something hyper theatrical and devised and contemporary and drawing on pop culture references to something like Little Foxes, which is like, it is a capital W, capital M, capital P, well-made play. It asks of a muscle. It asks of a series of muscles and an athleticism that I think is one of the great joys of being an actor.
Yep.
I will say, however, that there's intellect and there is logic and sense to the classics, and there are demands on the instrument from the classics, and yes, I think we can begin to include pieces of the modern canon like Lillian Hellman, like Arthur Miller, like Tennessee Williams, in the same breath. These plays ask of us and teach us about ourselves things in similar ways that, you know, I think the Greeks wanted theater to teach its audiences and its participants. Yeah. And that's an extraordinary thing.
Yeah.
Quickly, did you know piano before you started playing? Or did you learn?
Yes.
Okay.
So did Amelia. Yeah.
This question just popped into my mind. You both are very like young, seasoned actors who have a long future in front of you.
Young,
if you revisit this play in about 20 years, which character would you want to play?
Regina.
1, 2, 3, Regina.
Please, you speak first.
I would love to. I'd love to play both Bertie and Regina. I mean,
we can do it in rep.
Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah, there we go. Like Nixon
I
and
see
Lenny.
it. 20 years from now, I see it.
I look great in a wig.
I believe don't doubt it for a second.
If I could, Regina, simply because I think that. But I'm not taking that away from a woman.
I think Regina just is really misunderstood. I think similar to the ways in which Amanda is misunderstood sometimes.
Sure.
And that being a mom is really hard. And being a woman in that time is so hard. And I think one of my favorite lines from the whole play is when Ben says, like, oh, Regina, you want so much of everything. And she's like, yes, I do. Yeah. And, like, she does. And what's wrong with that? And, like, is she a villain because she wants things?
Sure.
And so I think humanizing her would be really, really fun. And watching Anne do that has been just remarkable. And I'm not sure if I could fill those shoes, but it'd be fun to try.
To answer the question with a degree more seriousness and realism, I think I would love to play Ben, my uncle.
You'd be a great Ben.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, Rosa. The character he's so smart, and he watches so fully and so attentively, and I think as an actor, the opportunity to really allow each moment to inform one's given circumstances, to propel one forward in pursuing exactly what they need, is something that the character of Ben in this play gets to do so fully, while showing so little of that. And that's what takes my breath away about Remo's very graceful performance so much. To do that with such bite and such ruthlessness, while also having such a lightness of socializing about himself. It's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. And that sounds like fun to me.
Yeah.
Our last question before we go, we don't want to keep you here too long. You guys have been in a lot of productions. Have there been any fun onstage mishaps that have ever happened, like a set falling down in the middle of it, or someone skipping half
in this
of the play?
particular production, or just in general?
In
general,
any
production.
Even high school,
Or are you guys just perfect?
We're flawless productions.
No.
Yes, always. I'm trying to think if anything's happened in this production.
There's been an attention to servicing the play in this production that has made for, I think, a focus that has prevented a lot of potential mishaps.
There was in this production, there was a day when the piano was being really funky and like 2 keys would constantly stick. So when each of us played, we would have to like, because Amelia sits next to me or I sit next to Amelia while she's playing. And each time she pressed the note, I would have to like go under her arm and re-pop up the key. And then she would like play it again and I would like re-pop up the key while she's playing.
That's funny.
Oh God, what's going to happen? That piano is like, playing the piano on stage is so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It like gives me flashbacks to playing recitals as like a kid. And it's funny because Amelia feels the same way. Like that's like what we're most nervous about. It's like playing the piano.
Yes.
Patting your head and rubbing your tummy.
Exactly.
At the same time. It's the aforementioned production of Peter and the Starcatcher that I did back in November with the Hub Theater Company of Boston. There's a moment where I and my boss, Blackstash, who goes on in the Peter Pan canon to become Captain Hook, we exchange keys, and we do so. He throws a set of baby keys, so like toy keys, at me from far downstage, and I am upstage, and it is at the climax of the play, and I am to take those keys and do this whole heightened, choreographed clown bit where I then open the trunk and discover that it is empty. And my scene partner, a really talented local actor who's a dear friend of mine, Joey Pelletier, he throws the keys at me, and it was a bad throw. Oh. I have no problems. I have no qualms saying this about my friend. He gave me a bad throw. The keys soar over my head and hit the scrim and fall. Ooh. And the two of us then effectively, and mercifully, that is the kind of play that welcomes improvisation.
Yes, for sure.
So we came up with a little bit. It was a little PG-13, and something about magic fingers, and I opened the trunk very magically, and there was such glee in that kind of a moment, you know, that still felt very much a part of the world of the play. So I think that, you know, these things are always the opportunities for happy accidents, always opportunities for things that can continue to exist in the world of the play and move the story forward.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really fun. I want to thank you both for coming into the studio today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
everybody,
thank you guys for having us.
Please go see The Little Foxes, currently playing through March 17th. Get your tickets at lyricstage.com or Student Rush for $10 cash, 30 minutes before in the box office.
Good deal.
All students should go. Really, you should go see this play. It was
Please.
great. And then stay tuned because 12th Night is coming to the Lyric Stage at the end of this month.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. Thank you all for coming in. Here's
Thank
a little.
you guys so much.
Here, Good Man Charlie Brown, and we'll be back with more theater.
Love
talk.
it.
Great transition.